So I'm here with Maggie behind the camera, the dog on the floor, and it's the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to vote. This is the anniversary edition of 7 Languages in 7 Weeks. We're calling it Programmer Passport because it basically gives you a ticket to go with us as we travel together and hit a few languages and have some fun. We have a couple of interesting languages for you to consider. We have 2 dynamically typed ones, and we have 2 statically typed ones. The statically typed ones are Kotlin, and that's a language created by JetBrains that's traditionally thought of as a good Java replacement that's pretty concise. And then there's Crystal, and the Crystal language is supposed to be reminiscent of Ruby, but it's supposed to be fast like C, but have strong typing. And then there's 2 dynamically typed languages. One is the old standby Smalltalk, one of the best examples of message passing. And then there's Python, but we're going to look at one particular aspect of Python, the Jupyter Notebook, as it pertains to machine learning. Next, we're going to do a very brief demo for each one of these languages. Not to give too much away, but just to give you a flair for what each one of them can do. The first language that we plan to vote on is Kotlin. This language is intended to be a Java replacement, and it's pretty cool. It's a much lighter, less verbose language. One of the things that I want to point out here is that the typing situation in Kotlin is a lot more interesting. This question mark right here basically means that this is a string, but it will allow a null value. So if I did something like this, you can see that this is a valid program and this will run just fine. But if I delete the question mark, it no longer allows a null. And you can see an error here that the value cannot be null. And you can also tell that if I remove this line, this will protect me from a variable that's not initialized. So we like Kotlin because it has great integration with the IDE. And it's an excellent general purpose language in its own right. You'll find it useful for coding Android applications. The second language on our list is Crystal. And it's an interesting one because it's an odd combination of the things that people like about Ruby and some of the things that people like about C. And it throws in a couple of other curveballs at the same time. It has a great macro system, and it has a very interesting type system. Take a look at this program. You can see that this program, if you skip on down to line 6, you can see that we're picking off the environment variable, which would probably be a string. And if that's not there, then we would assign it to 10, which would possibly be an integer. So let's take a look at what happens if I print the type of this function. So I'm going to compile it and run now. And this is not indicative of the performance that you'll get with Crystal. We're actually running an internet version. But you can see that it's correctly determined that this is optionally an integer or a string. So we really like Crystal because it gives you some of the smoothness of Ruby, but a lot of the performance of C. The third language that we're going to vote on is Smalltalk. It's an object-oriented language. It's actually one of the first ones, and it's wonderfully instructive. It has the best implementation of message passing, and it's, almost 50 years old. This is a tremendous language, and you can see that we're sending a show message to the transcript, and we're passing the argument, hello world. And with Smalltalk, you'll just string message passing one behind another and just string them together. And it's a very interesting way to code and compose. So we can execute this, and as you expect, you get a hello world. Another thing that's interesting about Smalltalk is all of our code will be built in an image. And then once we kind of play around, that image will slowly morph into our code. And one of the interesting pieces of the whole problem solving exercise we'll do is teasing the application out of the image once we're done. The last language that we're going to vote on is Python. Now, I can already hear you groaning all the way here through the internet, but it's not exactly what you think. We're going to have a very narrow focus on the Jupyter Notebook as it pertains to machine learning. And I want to show you that this is an incredible tool for learning quickly and teaching quickly, which makes it an ideal candidate for a series. So I'm going to double click on this markdown cell, and now this becomes live, and I can do, for example, have a list, have a second level head, and then when I'm done, I can shift click and translate this to XML. Now, this might not seem very exciting to you, but one of the things that we can also do is plot different graphs and results that come back as we're working on machine learning algorithms. If we get to do Python, it'll be a very interesting exploration, not just in Python itself, but in the modern tools that people are using to build the machine learning algorithms that are powering the internet. That's a wrap for the languages, so now it's time to vote. We're going to leave the voting open for about a week. Thank you from Bruce, from Maggie, and the dog on the floor.